Hello, Amplify You family. Michelle Abraham here. I'm super excited to bring you another amazing guest today. So today I'm joined by fellow Canadian, which is unusual, right? Fellow Canadian from the other side of Canada. She comes all the way from the PEI, a little island on the East Coast. I'm all the way over on the West Coast. So super excited to be bringing you another amazing guest interview. Today we're going to be talking really about, it's a behind the scenes interview, behind the mic interview, but also a guest expert interview as well. So she's got some amazing tools for us to be able to really help us in our podcast. So I'm bringing you today the podcast host from Win the Hour, Win the Day, Kris Ward. She's a marketing entrepreneur, and Kris is a leading authority in building your business by building your team. So she's got a book and a podcast and a philosophy called Win the Hour, Win the Day. I'm super excited to dive into that today. And Kris helps entrepreneurs specifically, really easily double and triple their income and triple their time off. So doubling their income and tripling their time off. I think that's really cool. And after the loss of her husband, Kris turned to a full-time work as a marketing strategist. And what she noticed, which was super cool, I think, was that her business not only survived in her absence, but was thriving. So we're going to dive into how she did that, what that's all about, how we can do that as well. She has been interviewed by one of the original one of the original Shark from Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, ABC Secret Millionaire, James Milchick. She's been featured on award-winning podcasts, radio, and TV shows all throughout North America. And I'm bringing her to you, Amplify You family, today. So welcome, Kris Ward. Thanks for joining us on our show.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited that you're here too. So I just want to dive right in. I know there's a lot to uncover in what you have to offer today. And I love the idea of winning the hour. And, I think that's a really win the hour, win the day. I think it's a really cool philosophy. So let's dive into how did you come up with that? And now it's an amazing part of your business, obviously.
Well, thank you. So as you touched on in the beginning of the intro, I'm a marketing strategist. And what happened was my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer and I was pulled away from my business. And, it just one thing led to another and it consumed me, doctor's appointments, surgeries, all this other type of stuff that just, that in itself, take all the emotion out of it. That is a full-time job. And after his death and his passing, I returned to my marketing and I looked and, oh my gosh, my company was still intact. And in fact, it had been growing, which, let's be honest, take all the emotion out of that. I had lost an income and my life was about to change and, all my responsibilities and, all the help I had, I didn't have anymore. Right. So what a state I would have been in had I returned and didn't have a company. That would have not been the time for me to try to be charming and get a new career going and things like that. So my existing clients, my marketing clients, they were unaware of what was going on in my life. They were unaware of my absence. They had no idea because, I did not think it was good for business. So it was, I don't want to say a secret. It just was not public knowledge. Mm-hmm. So they started asking me more and more questions and they started wanting to work with me under the capacity of, of what I was doing and how I did it. And it really was about, look, if you can win the hour, you can win the day. And too many of us entrepreneurs take on these things, whatever it is, starting a podcast. You think, okay, I want to do this. And you dive all in. But there's really no strategy in place and there's no plan. And a big part of that is not having a team. Because for me, the turning point for me was when I realized that you could change your life by simply starting your team. And that was what I realized in hindsight, and thank heavens, that I did, because my life would have taken I had enough going on. I didn't need, sort of more bad news. So I started working with these clients and it was amazing. Like they were starting to take real vacations. They could stop doing things they hated. Mm-hmm. Most of them got within the first month, they got 25 hours back, a week. So they were super excited and they started to be able to get these passion projects out like books and podcasts and stuff like that. And so I thought, you know what, business should be fun. And I believe that your business should support your life and not consume it. So I wanted to help more people because I had a renewed a renewed awakening of how fragile and short life was. So I said, how can we help more people? So then we wrote the book. I don't know, I say we, because it was just me, but I had
I
a
do
lot of
that too.
voices in my head. I was like arguing with myself all the time I was writing this book. So I wrote the book, and then, I guess I always believe in the team philosophy. My team did pick up slack while I was writing that book. So I wrote the book, and then we decided that we would take it online and help more and more people. In fact, right now, we're weeks away from a launch called the Outsourcing Playbook for Busy Entrepreneurs, More Results, Less Use. So it really is building into a platform, because people keep telling me, one lady told me last week, she said, Kris, I believe you saved my life. And I that's a bit dramatic, but when you're drowning in your work and you started it because you were passionate about something and now it's just eating you up, I guess to her, that's what it felt like I threw her a lifesaver. So that's how it all started.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking back to when I owned a fitness studio, that I got into it because I loved it, and then it like consumed me and like almost killed me too. I was like, gosh, I can totally relate to that lady that just said you saved your life. Where were
Yeah.
you 10 years ago, Kris? I really needed you. So glad that we found you today, and how I guess my first question really is like, when do you start having a team? Like, when do you start implementing that team in place? Is there a good time?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I get that question a lot. When I'm working with my coaching clients in 90-day cycles, they'll often say to me, Kris, I've got these really big dreams, and when do I start with a team? Do I, a few years in, or when, where do I start? And I'm telling you, boy, oh boy, if you could start day one, it would change your life, because I suffered those first few years and went without sleep. And by all reports, was not that charming to be around, because I was exhausted all the time and everything was a rush and a race, and I was trying to keep up. And I now call myself a recovering rushaholic, but boy, oh boy, luckily those things fell into place for me when I made a lot of shifts, and it was all set up before I was pulled away with John's illness. But day one, I'll tell you my first outsourcer, and this was huge. I would say it's about 8-9 years ago now. And what would happen is, back then, 9 years ago, it sounds like when dinosaurs roamed the earth, but I was still going to physical appointments, going to somebody's office, sitting down with them, taking notes, giving them options for packaging, different packages for their marketing strategies and stuff like that. And I would come back and I would promise, I would hold my hand up to the sky and I would promise that I would enter my notes into the client's file right away. But of course, I would get busy, and every week with certainty, what would happen is Friday afternoon, I would have these notes I didn't enter yet. And, when the client called me back a couple weeks later to, purchase a package from me or do whatever, my notes were not, I thought I was just writing short-term notes till I got back to the office. And then sometimes I was scrambling or guessing what package I gave them, or I couldn't read my writing, the pricing. And if I'd made a mistake, it would look like I'm trying to, get one by on them. But in fact, I just had bad notes, right?
Mhm.
So what happened to me was, after this suffering and guilt and beating myself up every week, that this week was no different than the last 8, I went and got an outsourcer. And what I was doing was, I would leave the meeting and I would sit in my car, and for 30 seconds, I would talk into my phone. I would send her the file and she would put it right in the client's notes. The details were clear, they were precise, they were accurate. And I got all of my Friday afternoon back. And then all the guilt I felt all week, beating myself up. And it cost me about $12, because she, God love her, only wanted to do transcriptions. And so she only did that. So she was really fast at it. And so some weeks I needed her for an hour, some weeks I needed her none. And so I spent about $12 every second week. So what I would tell you is that Friday afternoon then gave me the opportunity to work on other things to get out. So really, if you're starting your business today, then yesterday was the day to get your first team member.
I love that. And I can relate to so many of those things that you were saying. I feel like sometimes we become the bottleneck, and
Yeah.
as the entrepreneur, and like we have the ideas, and I can see the value in like having an idea, giving it to someone else to run with that idea would be so ideal, right? So for us podcasters out there, what would you suggest outsourcing? And I mean, now it's funny we're having this conversation, because that's a lot of what my company does, is the podcast management stuff, which is, we are the people that people outsource to do a lot of the podcast management. But what are some things that come to your mind when you have a podcast that you would get outsourced like right away?
Well, here's the thing. I want to make sure I don't step on any toes. So what is it exactly that you offer your clients for when they buy a package from you?
Yeah, so we do everything from the getting the file to getting it published in social media. So it just depends
Okay.
on how big of a package people want. So what we can offer is like literally keep our clients in what we pride ourselves on, and allowing our clients to stay in the creation mode of
Yeah.
creating the podcast, recording, and then after the recording's done, we literally will take the recording from them, edit it, put the intros and outros on, publish it to all the platforms, syndicate it out through social media, and create some social media content for them as well, so that it's a done for you service. But we have different varying levels of that, from you do a little or we do everything, and it just varies.
Well, as a good host would give always you an opportunity to share your knowledge to your audience. So I wanted to make sure they were very clear on that. So, or a good guest, not a good host. I have my own
You are
podcast.
a
So now
host too. Yeah.
yes, that's true. I don't know. So now I'm confused whether I'm the host or the guest. Okay.
It's okay. We can
So
take turns, right?
yeah, we can take turns leading. So what I would tell you is this. You can outsource anything, and it could be something as simple as getting guests for your show when you're first doing this, saying, okay, look, here's our strategy. And because in my show we have different levels of guests, what I call VIPs, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're coming on my show, to people like yourself and myself, where it's like great to have an interesting conversation with a colleague. So we have a strategy when we want a VIP, and my team takes care of that, but we put things in place and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. So really what I would say to you is, you can outsource absolutely anything if you're clear and you're specific on it. Okay. The biggest mistake that people make, I think, off the top is, one, they confuse everything with a VA, and they say, okay, well, I need a VA to do social media, edit my videos, all these different things, when in fact, those are 3 different jobs. But then they get in their head that would be demanding to supervise 3 different things. But the editing, let's say of a video that I was doing to, like I'm just doing a live video and I want to edit it for something else, then, that might be something I do a batch of once a month, and I need 3 hours done. So people get this idea of, oh, you need this special person that can do all these things, but that undermines the whole outsourcing thing. That is old school thinking, where you think, oh, I need to hire someone, Ethel, for 20 hours a week, and I need to give her a desk and pay for overhead. And then, well, I really need her for this, but since she's not going to come in for 5 hours, then I will bring her in for 15 and we'll find something for her to do the other 10. The world is a magical place right now, and you can get different people. So you could start off like I did, outsourcing, for 1 hour a week, but it got me all the Friday afternoons off. So really what we do with our clients when we're working in the coaching programs is we first give them a little bit what I call an energy audit. Where's your energy going? And so many times people think they're the only ones that can do this, or that this requires some special skill set. And there's so much pre and post work to what people do, that even if you do have this specific skill set, there's prep and post work that other people can set up for you. So that's a big deal. And then I think the second thing I would tell you is, too many people say, oh, okay, Kris, I heard you, you're right. I went off, I hired somebody and it didn't work. But what I would tell you is you had no strategy, you had no experience. It would be like my accountant saying to me, Kris, you need a different tax strategy. And then I come back a few months later and say, well, that didn't work. And she's like, well, what do you know about that? Right. So people think that going out and hiring their first person, and then, oh, when it doesn't work out, they say, well, the economy or kids these days, or my job is different. Well, you had no blueprint. And that's why we created the outsourcing playbook for entrepreneurs. It is super easy to do, and it's very easy to leverage your team and your success, easily and affordably. It's a really win-win-win situation, but you have to have a plan.
I love that. And what would you say to people that are like, I don't want to manage people? Like, I don't feel like that's something that I could do. Like, I know like entrepreneurs are very vision oriented, and then, or they're like in the doing of the things. So like, then there's this middle ground of managing people. So what are some suggestions around the management side of things?
That is an amazing question. We get that one all the time at our website,
Mm-hmm.
www.winthehourwintheday.com. I would say that's probably the number one question we get. And what I would say to you is you're a little further down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Managing. So when I gave you the example of, having that transcriptionist, I didn't have to manage her. I used her and I
Mm-hmm.
got her like every couple weeks in for an hour, depending on how many meetings I had. And that freed up Friday afternoon. So then all of a sudden I started to get more projects out and I'm like, who else I need help with? So all of a sudden the success bred success.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when we say managing, we're thinking again, old school stuff where I'm in a desk and I've got 6 employees with desks in front of me, but
Okay.
you never have to surpass what you can manage. And I'll tell you, for example, like one of the things we teach is when you have a really strong VA, my VA does a lot of the hiring for me for projects, or the
Mm-hmm.
ones that she's less skilled at, she will narrow down the talent pool and then we'll pick from her top 3. So
Mm-hmm.
she manages the team and she also hires new people, right?
That's great. Yeah.
So you can really put things in play really quickly and
Mm-hmm.
easily, but the managing is here's a funny story. It kind of reminds me of years ago when I was working way too much. I was running around like a crazy person, eating junk food as you drive, because when you're rushing around, you never eat salad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I've put on weight. This is crazy. I just need you to know I am going to be watching what I eat. I need to get this together, whatever. I just wanted him to know, like, don't bring me home treats, whatever, right? And he said, well, I like how you look. I don't want you looking like a boy, like losing so much weight, you look like a boy. And I said to him, when I start dropping so much weight that I look like a little boy, I will accept your intervention. But so far in my entire life that has not happened. Like, I think we're worried about a problem we do not have. So right now I appreciate the fact that you think I can do anything, but that's not a problem we have. So what I would say to you is that's not a problem you have right now managing your team. When
Mm-hmm.
you get somebody to come in and
Mm-hmm.
they relieve you and you just feel the freedom like you've never felt before, and all of a sudden you got this extra 25 hours a week, which is our average, then you know what? You won't care that you've got 2 people that you check in with twice a week. It just won't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that freedom will be way more worth the while. Yeah, that's awesome.
You'd be completing too many projects to worry about the managing. The managing is an old school mentality from an office employee setting.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it's really not the predominant characteristic when you're outsourcing.
Yeah, and just to give an example in our team too, I mean, each of our team members have their own businesses. So they're like invested in the business, and they're invested in managing clients themselves because that's their business as well. So it's kind of
Yeah.
bred a really nice way of they are self-managed. So it's not something that's like on me as the owner to have to like make sure they're doing all their job, because they do their job because it's their job. It's their
Yeah.
business too, right? So they're
Yeah.
invested in it as a team. So that's really a powerful thing, that like having that extra time back in your life to do the things that you want to do and do the things that you need to get done. What are some things that you did when you finally found that extra freedom? What were the things that you found that was the things that you were not able to get to when you were so bogged down with so much stuff?
Yeah, those are some great questions. And I just want to go back to and point out, like, there's strategies in place when you hire people, when you train them.
Mm-hmm.
And we teach that as well in our course. And because one of the things I would say to people as well is, let's say, for example, I don't know, I was getting a newsletter out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
My team is trained that if I'm the one that's given the final audit to that newsletter, and
Mm-hmm.
let's say we're missing a picture or something, and they'll be like, Kris, we need that picture from you at that event, blah, blah, blah. If Thursday comes and goes and the newsletter didn't get out,
Mm-hmm.
nobody gets to say, but Kris, we asked you for that picture and you didn't give it to us, so we didn't send it out. The team is set up that until I raise my hands and say, for the love of heavens, please stop asking me. It's not going out this week. I've got, I'm in the hospital. Stop bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's their job to manage me, not me to
Mm-hmm.
manage them. That's how we
Yeah.
build teams. You are supposed to be taking care of me. I'm not supposed to be running around watching you. So too often people get this parental mindset, and
Yeah.
that's just because they've had bad employee relationships before where they were managed like a parental unit, like they were the child and they were the parent. And so then you don't know any other way when you're building a team. So what I would tell you is my team watches my back.
Mm-hmm.
and they filter information to me and make sure I don't miss deadlines. That's how it's set up. So that's very different than that whole old school of managing. Makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Really
Um,
powerful, because I think that's, this is a new world, the virtual things and managing, people, outsourcing to people, right? That's not a
yeah.
traditional role of like,
Yeah. Yeah,
but you don't
absolutely,
need to.
100%. And so that's the thing is when you are not working, chasing, being choked by the day-to-day grind of your business,
Hmm.
then, there is always something that you want to get to the next level. And I have that, people whisper that to me all the time. Like they've got these
Hmm.
big dreams and they'll be like, Kris, I know I'm really good at this and I want to be appreciative and I make a good living on that. But what I really want to do is I want to start having a bigger impact on my audience. I want to be a thought leader. I want to have a podcast. I want to write a book. I want to be running these masterminds. I want to be doing these things. And what's really frustrating is those dreams just keep getting moved further and further back.
Hmm.
So when when you start building your team, then you can start allotting, like I said, there was Friday afternoon. So I could say, oh my gosh, that's when I start working on these ambitious projects that I can count on. And
Hmm.
so when you look around and you see somebody where you have professional envy and you think, how are they getting all this stuff done? They have a team. That's the difference.
Yeah. And I really, going back to what you said about setting up the team properly so they're managing you, you're not managing them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate that point, because I think that happens. And then I think that's in our mental mindset as well, too, is that we think that we have to manage them. And if we're hiring properly and correctly, then they're managing us and filtering stuff to us. And as we're talking about this, I was just thinking about, something else I need something to do for me. I was just like, it was just coming up with something as you were saying that. I was like, one of the things that happens all the time is I get these forms that I've got to fill out to be speaker on different summits
Yeah.
or on different podcasts and all these things, but they're basically the same questions in all these forms. And
Yes.
I'm just looking at my desktop right now as we're recording. I have like 6 of them sitting right there waiting for me to fill out. And I am like, I don't know when I'm going to get these filled out, but this is something I need to give to my team to do. They're capable of taking my information and putting it onto those
Yeah.
forms, because they have all the information already. It's just finding it in one place and putting it all there.
And
So
absolutely. And we teach that. So like you're right, the team managing me is something that we worked really hard on over the last 8 years with myself and my clients. So it's not just a simple mindset. There's tactics in play that we teach in the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs. And what I would say to you is, yes, you don't realize how many times you do stuff that you think is your voice, but it's redundant. So
mm-hmm.
that's a great example, because like right now, there's starting to be a little bit of bubble, on social media coming up about our program. So people ask me questions and then I'll respond. But
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I then take my responses. So I might be, that's a great question. Here's what's different about the course. That's a great question. Here's when we're launching it. And then there might be a little blurb about more details. So I copy and paste those and put them on a Google Docs.
Mm-hmm.
So then my social media assistant, if I'm not around and she sees different things, people ask me questions, she's already got my answers because I'm just copying and pasting them. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would tell you is you could just do a 30-second video loom,
Mm-hmm.
answer those questions, tell them to start a Google Docs. And now they have, because the reality is you could be on 1,000 podcasts. 9 out of 10 questions are going to be the same. There might be the odd
Mm-hmm.
one that's different. So then you would have a formula that you'd say, here's the 4 steps to doing this. Here's the Google Docs. You've got it all. Fill them out. I only do interviews on whatever days. You're done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yep, check. That one's going out the door
Yeah.
after this interview.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Any other, like, where do you find people to outsource to? Or do you have any favorite places that you look for team members and people for your business, for your
That
clients'
is
businesses?
another really great question. And that's the one where people get a little too excited, enthusiastic, and they'll hear of something like, oh my gosh, I heard of Upwork, so that's the place to go. I heard of Fiverr. And it's really like shopping for anything. Like, you know, you, you don't go to, you can get toilet paper at one store like Walmart, but can you get pants there? Yes. Should you wear them to a wedding? Maybe not. Right. So what I would say to you is, what happens too often is people find one platform and they think, oh my gosh, this is great. And then they have, they strike gold in one area, but then it starts to not be as effective. And they think, oh, I just got lucky or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's different platforms, I would tell you, and that's in the program as well. There's very different platforms depending on your needs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's some that are really great for VAs, online, and they each have different pluses and minuses and different
Mm-hmm.
packages and different ways that you get paid and they get paid. So there's a plus and minus to everything, but there's some that are very specific for VAs. Some are very specific for graphic designers.
Mm-hmm.
Fiverr is great for one-offs kind of stuff. Upwork's great for things that are a little bit more specific, like maybe a video editor or something. And then online Philippine jobs, they're really great for VAs. Mind you, it's a monthly subscription, but you can just cancel it then, and that's fine. But they're not taking things off the top where other platforms want to get an ongoing fee, a
Right.
percentage of that fee, whether you have them for years or not. So that's all in the course as well, because it is a place that people and get lost, and there's always new platforms coming up. So you
Mm-hmm.
really want to know those platforms. So again, it's like
Mm-hmm.
buying toilet paper at a gas station. Like, yeah, they
Right.
sell it, but it's not the best toilet paper and you're overpaying,
Yeah.
right?
And everyone, you talk to anyone, they've all got a different story of one of those platforms or another where there was a good thing or a
Yeah.
bad thing, or, you know, uh,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. I'm sure there's lots of more that goes into that, where to look
Yeah.
and where not to look. And
Yeah.
especially on the specifics of what you're looking for too, right? Yeah, all of our team is North American based too. So, pay a little bit more for that, but we're in the same time zone, which I like. So that's also
Yeah.
something, and maybe consider time zones and stuff when you're working with teams. But yeah, interesting. So tell us a little bit more about your course. Who is it for? What kind of other things they learn in it? It sounds like it's got some really great stuff in it, and takes you through like being an overwhelmed, out of control entrepreneur to like being able to hire a team and get some freedom back in your life.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So really some of the modules are how to hire the perfect person, the training toolkit, the dream accelerator, momentum magic, talent tracker, just all kinds of how to keep your team trim, lightening. I can't talk, your load. Why don't we all pay attention while I sound out words? The meeting minimizer, there's all kinds of different things to just show that it's rinse and repeat, that once you learn these strategies,
Mm-hmm.
then you are like independent for years to come. And so the goal is to keep the team trim and lean and really working so that it works for you. So we're talking about, you might have a team of 3 or 5 people, even 5 years down the road, but it's just humming like a Ferrari. So instead of having a car or a beater, you've got a Ferrari, and it will just take you where you want to go.
Yeah.
So it really is, I just think your business, it really should be fun. And I think that when you're working,
Mm-hmm.
to me, work means when one requires knowledge. You clearly need more help, or you need a team. And to me, team is like, together, everyone amplifies money. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it doesn't have to be this hard. And you've got all these exciting ideas in your head. Let's just get
Mm-hmm.
them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I talk to so many entrepreneurs that have this like, okay, when this gets done, or when I can get through this part, then I'm
Yes.
going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And like, stop having that dream list, just do them. Right?
Because the reality is, if you're in business, the whole goal is to get more business. In
Mm-hmm.
theory, I guess, to be busier. So you have this false sense that you're always waiting for this next thing to get by before you can do that thing you really want to do. But in fact, you're just going to get busier and have less time, because you're going to be more tired a year from now and still not
Mm-hmm.
have it done. So yeah, the waiting for when that gets done, when you hear yourself say that more than once, I promise you, once
Yeah.
you'll be saying it 100 times. So just stop and
Yeah.
do it this way. It's easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, Kris, tell us a little bit about your podcast before we let you go.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, my podcast, Win the Hour, Win the Day, is more general business. And it's really just about how to get to your next win now. And what
Mm-hmm.
I call a win is, okay, what is next? Means, oh, great, we accomplished that. So what's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just general conversations with all kinds of thought leaders and different things. It could be anything from marketing, social media, or whatever I find. Today, we did one on how important sleep is and some sleep tips. So yeah, it's just how to get to your next win now.
I like that. And you're on Apple Podcasts and Google and all of the above, so we can find you there.
All the fun
Okay.
places that they can find your amazing podcast, they can find mine.
Awesome. So win the hour, win the day, guys. Make sure you go check out Kris's podcast, leave her a great review. And that's super awesome. So Kris, anything else, any last bit of advice before we let you go for our eager podcasters out there that are looking at this podcast and going, oh my God, it's a lot of work, or I want to do this, but I need to get the rest of my business in order first. The podcast is my passion project. What should they be doing first?
I've had great fun doing my podcast. I've got to meet amazing people like yourself. So I just think, like that old saying goes, what's the best time to start something? It was 10 years ago or today. So just get to it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. And you have a free gift, I believe, for our audience too.
We do. Check it out. Free gift from Kris, KRIS.com. In fact, if you go there, it's like a little bit of a treasure box. There's a number of free giveaways there, at least 9, and stuff that we still charge for. So check it out. Free gift from Kris, KRIS.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kris, for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge about outsourcing and really just giving me also the kick in the pants that I need to do some more outsourcing within the stuff that I still do on my team. I like filling out these application forms. So thank you so much for your incredible knowledge today. It's been great having you as a guest, and I look forward to having you back again sometime.
Oh, thank you so much. There's nothing more precious someone can give you than their time. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, have a great day. And guys, make sure you check out Kris's podcast, Win the Hour, Win the Day, and everywhere you can find podcasts. And check out where you find your course. Kris, where can we find it?
Oh, you know what? Coming soon from Kris.com.
Awesome. And then don't forget to go to freegiftfromkris.com as well.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, have a great day. Thanks for being with us.